Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. We're about to go into an international break, but excuse me, Christ, Kai Haverts scores again. You're watching Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. This is your Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening, lads. How are we doing? It's good to see you all. And it's good to see you all when I'm sober. Dan, we had a powerful weekend for your birthday, didn't we?
Mate, I've got no idea. I don't know. You have to tell me what we did, because at the minute, all I know is I went to football and came home, and what happened in between, I ain't got a clue.
Yeah, and you came home a bit lighter as well. Unfortunately, you got your phone nicked in one of the pubs around North London. So just a warning to people, be careful when you've had a few beers with your mates and stuff like that. Like, you know, that there's some horrible bastards out there that actually do things that just make your life difficult. Yeah, it costs you money. You might be insured, you might not, whatever. But it costs money and grief, and it's not worth it.
Yes.
But you're good otherwise.
If anyone knows who it is, please tip me off, because I'll give you lots and lots of pints for information on who I can batter. So please let me know.
Alex, baby Guinnesses, Jaeger bombs, beers, Guinnesses, ciders. You know what it's like when you come over here. That was only Dan. That was only Dan before the game.
I could have done the same in the first game of the season. I was that drunk I could have lost my phone as well. So I know exactly what he's talking about, Dan. It just happens sometimes.
I've just realised that I did Jaeger shots, and that's what's done me. Whoever bought me the Jaeger shots, I'm blaming them, because Jaeger and me does not go together.
That was David, I think. Was it David, or it was in the Woodbine? You had Jaegers before the game.
I did one with Will, didn't I?
That's heavy.
Yeah, Will, that was it. It was Will, yes.
Oh, I'm going to blame him. Oh, yes, it's all Will's fault.
Will, if you're watching, you're in trouble. You got a ginger guy who's going to come after you. You're in trouble.
Oh.
Trevor, you're not no background, and we're going to have a conversation about your background and my background in a second. No background. Why?
No, I'll be back in a second.
Oh,
I'll just fill that gap with a thank you to someone that I know is in the chat. I can see Chan in the chat, and for anyone that doesn't know, Chan sorted me out and helped me get an Uber home. So I just want to say thank you, mate. It's massively appreciated.
It's what friends do, is what he said, and I totally agree. Well done. Thank you, Chan, for helping us all out. Dan in particular.
Yeah. What do you think, Hilsey?
He's sodded off. Listen, let's have a look at. I've had one beer while I was cooking my dinner, and I've just had this. I'd have had really nice. Have a look at this. Look, I'm a good cook. What do you think? Spaghetti bolognese, San Miguel. Is that a good photo?
I don't know, mate.
To say something first.
It's not filling me with hunger at the minute, mate. I'm sorry. You might have to give yourself a 6 out of 10. Try again next time.
Okay, well, I'll ask Alex, because Alex has had my culinary skills before.
I love a good bolognese, and that looked very good, yeah, mate.
I've just said, Leanne said in the chat, "Where's the sauce?" Unfortunately, Fergus has no sauce in life and in food, so there is no sauce available for Fergus.
Leanne,
the
adequate amounts of sauce is always used.
No sauce for Fergus.
Right,
but
okay.
I do want to move past this, because it should have been a very, very good weekend for me to celebrate a great win for Arsenal, and even on Sunday, Spurs doing what they do and bottling it. So
and
there's
then
more to life than just a phone, and spending the weekend with you lot and enjoying Arsenal win and Spurs losing is definitely one of them.
and we both captained Saka on the FPL, didn't we? So that was a good week for us.
Oh, well, more positive news then. Cheers, Alex. I forgot about
that. Alex, he couldn't check. He didn't have a phone.
Oh.
Oh, it's a bit of a new joke now, isn't it? I can tell.
Yeah, it's going to be brought up a load of times.
Why no background? Why no background?
Well, because as you probably just gathered, it's I'm babysitting the grandkids tonight. I'm at my daughter and son-in-law's house, so I'm just on. I packed before I left home to come here. I packed all my computer up in a bag to bring it with me, and then forgot to bring it anyway. So I'm on my phone. The grandkids have not been in bed long, so one of them had just come down there, so I've had to leg it. So it's very unprofessional from me tonight, which I'll just have to take my turn. Normally it's Fergus, but tonight it's me. So if I disappear again, you know what it's all about. And I do miss that background, actually. I'm just looking up there now. It's not the same without the background, is it?
Well, what we do have in the background, because we were chatting on over the week about like what we're going to talk about tonight. I've got a few photographs that Charn has taken of us guys at the football. That's me with my nephew, who absolutely adored what Dan and everybody done. I've got a couple of videos which I can show you guys in a few minutes. And Charn, if anybody wants to check him out, he's on hang on, at Lower North Bank on Instagram, and also he's got his webpage as well, which has got all his photos on there, and you just get a real match day experience of what goes on. But the other local artists that we thought we would like to shout out for, Trevor, I'll let you do it, and you can take it from there.
Yeah, we were talking about Ruth, weren't we? Because we saw that she said her Etsy shop they'd taken some of the bits and pieces off her Etsy shop because they weren't selling very well. But so we thought we'd just give her a bit of a plug. She's not paid us. We've not took any money off her. Well, we wouldn't take any money off of anybody to plug them on this show. But we just thought we'd give Ruth a bit of a minute. She's an amazing artist, has a very unique style, does Ruth. Fergus and myself have been very fortunate. She's actually done some personal paintings of us too, which were amazing. And she's also painted most of the blocks at Arsenal. So if you're a season ticket holder, or there's one block at Arsenal that gives you a good memory, you can buy that picture. I have block 7 on the wall because that's where my season ticket is. No second guesses for what block Fergus and Dan have on the wall, and maybe one day Alex will be able to have his block on the wall as well, eh?
Yeah. Fergus, I thought you straighten them pictures up, mate.
Don't you start again. They are straight. I tell you what, there was precision lines and levels and everything else. Well, unless the level you guys bought me for my birthday is faulty on purpose.
I don't know. I reckon VAR did them, mate, because they definitely ain't straight.
I've got a VAR video as well. I can show you that one. Listen, somebody else who we bumped into as well, because I love the way that the podcast, the Facebook groups and stuff that carry across and build the Arsenal community, and what we've done on Block 5. I bumped into Stuart Nelson from the Philly Gooners. I've got his flag over there, Arsenal Philadelphia. That will be straightened up. I literally put it on a second ago. Yeah, it's just really good to meet different people, and it's quite well. Trev, you get it sometimes as well. It's and Dan also, I expect. It's quite strange when people go, "Oh, I know who you are," and you don't know who they are.
I'd just say no. I'm not that person. Sorry, must be me double. I don't do the publicity bit, so not like you, Fergus, dancing back down the street, get your picture taken.
Listen, before we go into the Southampton game, we do have a few podcasts that are out there doing Arsenal fans in the community. There's one totally with Ruth, there's one with Charn, there's one with Charlie, there's one with loads of different people who have there's Del Llewellyn, who's stunningly amazing. They're all on there. Go check him out because we got an international break coming up.
Berg, did you see that picture of Ian Wright that Dal's done?
Yeah, I know.
He put the picture was up next to the photo, and I didn't know which was the photo and which was the picture. He's that good. He really is that good.
Well, if we've gone on that, I've got this up here. It's a signed Wenger one. And that's a print of the original. And I was fortunate enough to know where the home of the actual original, and the original's huge. And I went and met Del and the guy who got the paint the sketch drawing. What I don't know what the proper term is, but to see it up close and see the detail was just Unreal, absolutely unreal. Let's
just quickly, Ferg. I've had another flashback from the weekend, mate, and those pictures that you put up of you with who's the gooner you put the picture up with?
Billy Goon, yeah, Stuart.
I took a few other pictures after that, didn't I?
You did.
Are you not going to show those ones?
I can probably. It's just where you zoom into my wrinkles. That's all you do.
I remember taking those pictures, and you know when you take a picture and then zoom in more and more, and he's got a 5, and he has this close up of just his face like that. It's a brilliant picture. I'd love to have a copy of that one, please, Ferg.
Let me see if I can find that just for you. There are a few photos that. Hang on, just 1 second. Keep talking between you, and I'll find them.
Yeah, what are we talking about then? Shall we talk? What should we talk about first? Let's talk about the game on Saturday.
There it is.
Look at the chops on him. The chops. Is that where you store your dinner, in them chops, Ferg?
Yeah, it looks like that.
To be honest, Fergus, you should have given people a warning, mate. There's probably kids watching before you show that.
Yeah, let's talk about the game, shall we? As you said, Trev, Arsenal 3, Southampton 1. The lineup. So it was a change in the lineup. Alex, I'm going to come to you with the lineup first of all, and then I'm going to go to Dan because I've already had a quick chat with Trevor about it, and I know where his stance is. But the lineup changed. There was Raya, Partey, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori, Jorginho, Havertz, Rice, Saka, Sterling, and Jesus. So change up front with Sterling and Jesus. Was it the right time? Were you happy with the lineup, Alex?
I know this is a thing we're going to disagree on because we had a chat last week, didn't we, me and Dan? I think there were some changes that he was forced into doing. He was probably forced into playing Partey at right back. Tomiyasu wasn't quite ready for a full game. And with both White and Timber out, he was kind of forced into playing him there. And then that meant Jorginho had to come in. So I think I was hoping for Nwaneri to play, but I think with that happening, I think it was quite obvious he wasn't going to change it all up that much. But I think it was right to do some rotations in the squad. And I think Jesus and Sterling, they need playing time to get up to the level of our squad. And I think the only way they can do that is if they start some games. And I mean, in hindsight, they didn't do well, but I think that just shows why they need the minutes. And it all ended well. So I think it was a good thing that we managed to get them some minutes and we still got the win. It shouldn't have been that uncomfortable during the game because we should have, scored in the first half. But yeah, I'm happy with them getting some minutes, especially Jesus. He lacks confidence. I think Arteta maybe thought he could bring up his confidence during the game, get him a goal. But yeah, he's been injured a lot. And then Sterling as well. He still needs to get used to the team and the players around him. So yeah, I know we're not going to agree on this, but yeah, I was pretty happy with them getting some minutes.
Well, to be honest, Alex, we might agree a bit more than you think. I think look, the youngsters debate, as we said last time, for me is a bit early. I think there are players you go to before, and exactly as we said, you need some rotation in your squad. But I think for me, the likes of Jesus and Sterling should come in before Nwaneri because they're established first team players. So I'm not surprised that he's made those rotations as he has. You need to rotate with the amount of games we've got coming up. I'm a little bit surprised that he's done it before the international break. Maybe a little bit further down the line is when I would have expected it. Having said that, he did a similar thing against Luton at home last year and did rotate a few players. The only thing I don't like is, for me, that shows a little bit of complacency. Now, in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, right? We've come out of it with a win. We've given players minutes. Fantastic. I agree with you fully that probably best outcome from that. We've got the win and they've got minutes. But that shows to me that maybe he thinks Southampton are not as good as the others, which I think a lot of people would agree. But is that the right message to send to the team? And I know they scored against a run of play. We were unlucky, I think, before that and after that as well, with some of the chances that we didn't finish. But there are players that came into that game and didn't, for me, stake a claim to be starting again. So next time we rotate, do you go back to those players? For me, probably not. I think you now might look to other players that deserve their spot a little bit like Wanyeri. Maybe if he impresses in the Carabao Cup, maybe he deserves a chance above the likes of Sterling or Jesus, because at the minute that they're not really doing it for me. And I think a lot of people's worries about them coming into the squad are quite valid, and that they need to step up if they are going to come into the squad. So not surprised he rotated, but agree with you, the outcome is a good outcome.
Was Ferg frozen?
No, I think it's just waiting for you, mate.
Oh. Are you waiting for me, Ferg, are you? Well, that's good for the people listening, isn't it, eh?
He's learned some manners, look.
There. They don't know that Fergus is an idiot. So I'll say it for you. That silent bit back there for about 10 seconds was Fergus being an idiot for the benefit of those listening on audio only. Right? You see, what you got to say first is that I had my doubts about the team when I saw it. I had massive doubts, actually. By the end of the day, we've got to roll our hands up and say that Arteta got it right, hasn't he? You know, because we've come away with a 3-1 win. I reckon Arteta was probably thinking, well, I can beat Southampton in 45 minutes, so I'll start Jesus and Sterling and see where we go from there. But no, I didn't agree with it. Much along the lines of what Dan said. England, week off coming up. Is there other and better times to rotate? Shouldn't we be trying to score as many goals as we can against the likes of Southampton, who, with the greatest respect, are clearly not the strongest side in the league, far from it. And I thought that we should have started strong. I think that Sterling needs another chance. I'd like to see Sterling playing the same side as Havertz, because I think that Jesus, for some reason, just isn't doing it. Whether it's his confidence, whether his injuries are still hampering him, whatever it is, the fall off from Havertz playing up front to Jesus playing up front is massive. It's not close. It's not close. It is a massive drop off. And as soon as, we scored before the subs came on. Havertz put himself in the centre forward role himself and scored. But as soon as we changed it, we could see that we were the side that were top of the league and Southampton were the side that were bottom of the league. So was he right to experiment? In my head, possibly not in that game, in that situation. But as I said right at the start of this ramble, you can't argue against him because he's done his experiment. He's got 45 minutes into Sterling and Jesus and still won the game. So who knows, you know?
Sorry, Trevor, I was actually loading up some videos and I couldn't take myself off mute, but I had sent a message for you to go, but you're on your phone, so I didn't realize that you can't see it all. The first half, in the first 10 minutes, we camped ourselves in the Southampton box, and we put a lot of pressure onto them. But after 30 minutes, there was only 2 shots on target. I think in that half, it was Havertz and Partey that had shots on target. Only Partey made Aaron Ramsdale get his gloves dirty. Trevor, I can hear you. I can see you shaking your head.
Well, no.
Do you think?
I didn't think we had any shots on target first half.
I think we had one, and they had one.
They had one, and we had none. I thought.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But, sorry. Cool.
There was it was very little action. And what I was going to go to Dan and ask him. That's 2 games we played promoted sides, probably relegation contender sides, and we seem to have struggled for half a game again. It seems that we come out strong, and we got 2 against Leicester, but we couldn't get 2 or 3 goals in the first half against Southampton. And then we put ourselves under pressure for the second half. Is that an issue?
No, look, I think, to be honest, it's a byproduct of a couple of players being out. The likes of Ødegaard makes a big difference in breaking down the low block.
Huge.
And then on top of that, you've rested who is our sort of backup player in that instance in Trossard, right? So, look, you've quite a few rotations in the squad, I think, make a bit of a difference there. Also, when you're playing these type of sides, and they do sit in the low block, it's not always that easy to break them down straight away, right? And when they get into the game and you get through first 15, then next 15, the next 15, they get to half time, they're in the game and they become more difficult to break down. But you see with a lot of teams in this instance where they get a bit tired from us moving them around, stretching the game. And that's where we normally create more chances in the second half. So not too worried. I'm more worried that it's another game where probably we haven't given too much away to Southampton at all. They have still scored. It's not a clean sheet at home. That does happen a lot more at home than it does away, and we look a lot more solid away from home than we do at home. I do think we need to be a bit better in these games if we want to be racking up goals for goal difference. That is what Man City tends to do. They score lots of goals at home. I think that's the next level for us. He's been able to really dominate and put teams to bed early in our home games. But look, when you've got a lot of players out of the first team, I'm not surprised.
Alex, does it concern you our not our home form, because we're getting results and we're winning and we're unbeaten, and we've done lots of clean sheets and everything else last year, but we don't seem as convincing at home this season. I know we've been away a lot as well, but we don't seem as comfortable at home this season as we have previously.
Yeah, we saw it a couple of times last season as well, and I mean, at this stage of the season, we've gotten away with it against Leicester and Southampton, but yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't get away with it. Was it last season against Southampton where
3-3?
The 3-3 game where we didn't. So yeah, I mean, we can't let it happen too many times. And yeah,
Alex, is there a comparison to the start we made last year, do you think, to this year as well?
I mean, you could compare it because, I mean, we had the Brighton at home draw where we had the Fulham draw last season, didn't we? And we had some impressive away performances early in the season. We've had it this time, and then at home, we haven't been as convincing. So, I mean, you could draw comparisons to last season, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've still come out of these games, and let's be honest, the Leicester game, they got a bit lucky. Apart from that, much better side. Even against Southampton, we were the much better side. So it's not really. I don't think it's poor form, because I think we actually played very, very well. I do think we are starting to grow into the season a bit more, and we did that last year as well. And that's the reason why I asked the question about the comparison. And we've said the last few years that Man City always have a great sort of back 19 games as such for the run-in. And I think we're gearing up to be the same and not peak too early. And maybe it's just, like I said, comparison to last year in a similar sort of scenario.
What do you think, Trev?
Picking up from what Dan said there, I'm much happier this season with the squad than last season. And that's what gives me great hope, because they gave me hope last season that we could win it right down to the final day. And I think we're better equipped to take that on another step this season. So just one thing before we move on, people watching it, I'm really sorry that the comments are not coming up on the screen as often tonight. Normally in the background, you see me looking like this all the time, and that's because I'm looking for the comments and putting the comments on the screen while Ferg does all the hard work. And tonight I'm on my phone, so I can't do the comments, and Ferg can't do everything. So I apologise for that. But talking about the seasons and how we're going, and I don't want to go into this in depth, boys, because we've done it to death, and we can't go into it in depth. But I firmly believe, just take this as it said. Don't have to put any background to why it happened. But I firmly believe that if we keep 11 players on the field in every game this season, we're now top of the league with 21 points, unbeaten. I firmly believe. Now, the reason why them players were sent off, we've done to death, and we're not going to go back into that. But that's just telling me that going forward, if we keep 11 players on the field, we're going to be exceptionally hard to beat. I can't see a team coming close when we really pick it up. And especially, Dan, you're right, away from home. We seem to have that extra notch, don't we, away from home. Across the field, not just up front, not just in midfield, not in defence. Across the team, they just seem to ramp it up that notch. And we can go back to Man City to put some reason behind that. That was one of the greatest defensive performances I've ever seen, nearly pulled off. But no, so going back to where we were at the start, I think that we're all right. I'm not worried at all. I was worried about the selection, as we've said, for the weekend. But once again, Mikel Arteta has proved me wrong, as he does week after week after week. I think we're in a very good place. Defensively, there was a question up there just now, Ferg. Will Zinchenko ever get a look back in the side? And that's a really interesting question, because last season, Zinchenko walked in our side at the start of the season, walks in the side. Now, if I'm honest, league games in particular, and Champions League games, I don't think Zinchenko gets in. So, and that's another example of how we're improving and moving forward once again. All we need now is a trophy on the end of it all.
Absolutely. Alex, sorry, I cut you off going to Trev. Did you have anything to add to what Dan said?
No, just that I think we can all say that. I mean, I think Dennis right that we aren't firing on all cylinders quite yet at this stage of the season, and I think we are slowly growing into the season. Of course, having Odegaard out is quite a setback, and I think we talked about it on one of the previous podcasts that maybe we didn't miss him at that much against, was it Spurs and against City, because of the way the games went. But I think we've seen it these past couple of games against Southampton and Leicester at home. That right hand side just isn't quite the same when Odegaard is out, and especially when Ben White is out as well. And when they triple up on Saka as they did in the game Southampton, that just makes it difficult. But I mean, Saka is just that good of a player that they can't keep him quiet, even though they tripled up on him. He got 2 assists and a goal.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about sort of settling into the season, though, I think it's also not just us, right? I think there's a lot of other teams that are still settling in. So maybe just our focus is a lot more on Arsenal because we're watching them a lot more closely. But I think there are lots of teams that are also going through the same thing. So it's not really something I'm worried about. And I see it more as a positive that we still have levels to go. And we've already produced such a great level and have got better from the first 2-3 games into the last sort of 4th and 5th game as well. But I love a bold statement, but I'm looking at seeing the makeup of this squad and the characteristics of this squad, and it's reminding me a lot in many, many ways to that Invincible squad. Now, I look at that in terms of physicality of the team, ability of the team, the way that they can defend, get stuck in. They don't hide away from winning battles and duels and one-on-ones, and they've got quality on top of it as well. And that makes me think, can this team do what that side did? I mean, it's a lot of pressure before even winning something, right? Because this team has to go and win something first to be anywhere near that conversation. But I think they've got good enough ability and the right makeup of a squad where they could emulate that.
I think it's nigh impossible for another team to go unbeaten. I think Liverpool at their best struggled. Man City, who are a juggernaut, have struggled. The achievement that we've done in with the Invincibles, I don't think I'll be alive to see it again. I get where you're coming from, and I get and see how strong we are, and especially defensively, I think we're fantastic. But it'd be brilliant. But
you see,
go on.
You see, the Invincible season. If you think about how special that was, and you want to try and get it in your head exactly how special that was, think about Manchester City, who since that day have spent money, and bought everything. They've bought league titles, they've bought FA Cups, they've bought Champions Leagues, they've bought everything. But the one thing they can't buy is that Invincible season. It's so hard. It's such an achievement that our great club did, and plus the fact there's more clubs with more money now and more clubs capable of having a good day, and so everybody can beat anybody on their day. Apart, obviously, I'm talking about top 5. But
would it be fair to say, Trev, there was really only 2 clubs when we done it, wasn't there?
I'm just trying to think, Fergie. It all sort of blurs into a bit of a. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool.
It was still Man United, Arsenal, wasn't it?
It was Man United and Arsenal, yeah, for season after season, really. And that's the one thing I can compare from that season to this season is that when we played Manchester City up at their place this season, the tension, the for want of a better word, the viciousness, the outright commitment, the in your face to each other from the fans, the in your face to each other from the managers, the in the face to each other from the players on the field, that Man City this season, that wonderful feeling of tension. That's the first time I felt like that since the games we used to have against Manchester United. I just noticed in the chat, Ferg, I've never seen him in there before, is a chap called Simon Lester. who's an old hand gooner like myself. He's probably a bit older than me, actually, Simon. But Simon talks a lot of sense, and
I'll follow him on Twitter.
He's also capable of a massive wind up now and again. It does make me laugh, but yeah. So I just want to put a question out there, right? This season, what have we got more chance of winning, the Champions League or the Premier League? Just put it in the comments with a little reason why, and I'd really appreciate you. We're not going to get them all on the screen because, as I said,
No. What we'll do that. We'll talk about that after. I'll star them and we'll come back to them. So
yeah, exactly.
Also, hang on, Dan, just 1 second. Anybody on Twitter? We got Malk the Gooner on Twitter at the minute. I've got your one. I will come back to you. But if you're on Twitter, you can make a comment as well. We'll keep them and we'll chat to you. Dan, go.
Yeah, just a final comment, Trev. You said about the battle at City this year. That gives me so many sort of flashbacks to the battle at Old Trafford and that 0-0 where we come away and we got a point. And maybe it is similarities coming back here. Now, I fully understand the game has changed, and I agree with everything that everyone has said, that it's more competitive. I think it's not as physical, but there's certainly more quality in teams throughout the whole season where you get a build up of games, you need to rotate. Exactly like we've just seen with Southampton, that's when it can come back to bite you. But look, it wouldn't surprise me if this team did emulate that. That's what I'm getting at. I don't expect them to, and I don't think they're as good yet as that team. I think they're missing a star man to be that team. But it wouldn't surprise me because there's a lot of qualities within this team that I think could be very, very similar.
Yeah, Dan, I agree, absolutely agree. But I think the only reason the game isn't so physical is because it's not allowed to be so physical. If you played some of those Arsenal Man United games again, you'd end up with 7 or 8 aside, and they won't allow that to happen nowadays. Whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing, people have their own opinions. I like to see a bit of physicality in the game, to be honest. But when you've got the likes of Maddison and Fernandes, who are experts in their field of pretending they're injured, then we're never going to get that physicality again. Never going to get it. But I do get your point, Dan. Absolutely.
Right, moving back to the game, the second half, because we've had a good old chat about nothing because nothing happened in that first half. So in the second half was all the action. Southampton came out with a bit more vigour, and in the first 3 minutes they hit the crossbar, and on 54 minutes, Fernandes dispossessed Sterling and clipped a ball forward for Archer, and he tucked it behind in the corner behind Ray. I was going to say Ramsdale for a second, but oops, yeah. What did you make of our opening 10, 15 minutes before we got a goal, Alex?
Yeah, I think it was almost like Southampton, they kind of divided the game into phases where it was like, okay, survive the first 15 minutes and then the next, and then get to the break. And then after the break, it was like they came out on a bit more, vigor, as you put in your notes. They came forward a bit more, played with more intensity. And that led to Sterling getting dispossessed. It was a bit of a 50-50. I think initially it looked like a foul, but I know Trev spoke about the physicality, but I think that was a fair duel in the middle of the field. Then just really good play by Cameron Archer. And then he got a bit of a luck as well on the way. Just took a deflection from, I think it was Saliba, which made it out of reach for David Raya. Then once again, it kind of took us, the opposition, to score to sort of get that wake-up call, because almost immediately after they scored, the game changed. And the fans sort of got into the game as well. It seemed like on the telly, it seemed like it really lifted the atmosphere when Southampton scored. But I guess you can elaborate on that part.
And there was a little bit of stunned silence. And again, we talk about the atmosphere. The atmosphere hasn't been as good as it was 18 months ago at a certain time. Especially, it has been a lot, but where we scored, where we would concede a goal before, it'd be instant. Arsenal, come on, we love you, Arsenal. There was a little bit more of it might be 5 or 10 seconds, but there was a stunned silence. But I think Southampton needed to score that goal for us to actually wake up and actually try and score. Do you think?
I think it was certainly a rocket up at backsides, if I'm honest. It felt like that, and I was a bit shocked, To be honest, I didn't expect them. They didn't do much all game. Like, I don't really remember them getting out of their half too often, right? You could probably count for me on one hand how many times they got into our half, let alone created a real big chance throughout the whole game. I think the crowd change is also a lot down to expectation. I think 2 years ago, don't forget, it sort of came out of the blue a little bit. We went from a team that was just about challenging for top 4 to a team that all of a sudden was top of the league, a few points clear, and the challenge sort of came out of nowhere. And I think since then, the expectation is we'll easily dispatch of a team like Southampton, and that's where complacency comes in from the crowd as well as the players. So I think that's an element of it. But also what I would say is it felt like we flipped a switch before any substitutions were made as well, and that the players on the pitch reacted very well, as opposed to, I know there was a few subs a couple of minutes after the goal, but the players reacted very well, and the players sort of got hold of the game, and players like Saka got on the ball more and just kept going and going, and Havertz, yet again, key man in that squad, picks the game up by the scruff of his neck and gets a great goal. So I think you have to say fair play to the players that were on the pitch that turned the game again. They got punished for probably one bit of quality. I think it's a good finish from Southampton, if I'm honest, across the keeper into the corner. But we do need to do better in instances where Sterling was on the ball. So capitalise on that mistake, took their chance, but I thought we reacted really, really well.
Trevor, I think it even surprised the visiting fans, because they like took a second or so to jump into gear as well. They weren't expecting it, but Dan's got a really good point there about the before the substitutions, that there was a response by the fans and the players on the pitch.
Yeah,
and we had that as well at Leicester, where we got to 2-2. But they still found a way. Is that the key to this season? The resilience of being able to carry on and going?
Yeah. If I'm honest, I think we had a little bit of good fortune when we scored straight away, because that meant we didn't come under any pressure to score. The game didn't go on for another 10 or 15 minutes with us pressing and not scoring. I honestly put that goal down to purely to Havertz. I think he thought, right, I'm not having this. I'm not going to go down to this lot. And he pressed straight forward made a run into the centre forward position, and straight away the ball was at him and he put it in the net. And we had a bit of good fortune, I think, scoring that quickly. But we deserved to score. Obviously, we had a better side, and it was a lovely goal. And after that, of course, soon after that, the substitutions are made, and then the game changed completely. The game is gone for Southampton. Although, having said that, they did it in woodwork twice. I think, that's part of, I don't know what we put that down to. It's part and parcel of the game, I reckon, nowadays, because we've had a couple of teams that have hit the woodwork against us, and we've ended up winning comfortably. After the substitutions, for me, we didn't look like we were gonna get caught. Although, and it's worth mentioning at this stage, Calafiori is obviously going to be a great football player at Arsenal, right? He's 22 years old. But twice in the last 2 games now, wingers have gone round him and left him for pace. So whether it's his positioning or whether it's his pace he's got to work on, I'm not sure. But I'm sure he'll improve and grow into the position. I'm not in the slightest bit concerned. But it has happened twice in the last 2 games that wingers have gone round him and got behind him. And you don't see that happening to Ben White, I don't think, do you? I'm sure Dan will put me right there. But if that's happened to Ben White in his last 50 games, you can count it on one hand, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben White, though, one-on-one is a fantastic defender. Calafiori is still settling into the system, the same as I've seen in the comments about Sterling maybe settling into the system. So I think definitely I've seen enough for him on the ball, quality-wise, where he's calm, composed, and I think he will have a fantastic career with Arsenal. I think he's a great addition to our squad. But look, Ben White at the start of his career, I remember that first game against Brighton, where people wrote him off and said 50 million wasted. People have wrote off Havertz saying he wasted money. People are saying Sterling's past it.
People invented a song about Havertz.
Well, I've not written him off, though, Dan. I've not written him off.
I'm not saying we are, but there are a lot of people that have. And look, he has to do more. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They all have to do more if they want to establish themselves in this starting 11 because of the quality we've got there. But I think we've shown that we trust the people that have brought the guys in, and they will continue to get better and better for me.
Yeah,
as usual, Trevor jumps ahead and he's got the substitution. But before the substitutions, Trevor, Kai Havertz, who we're talking about now, he scored a goal. it was an assist by Saka, and he became a record breaking or equaling goal. He's equaled Van Persie in scoring 7 goals at home. Thierry Henry. I don't know who Jimmy Bryan and Doug Leishman are, who done 8 goals at Highbury. But Kai Havertz, the guy that we talked about, as you said, Dan, people were writing off and he was a reject from Chelsea. He's proven everybody wrong.
Look right. If anyone says to you they thought Kai Havertz was going to come to the Arsenal and hit the ground running and immediately start scoring goals, they might be telling a bit of a porcupine, I reckon, because Havertz was broken, wasn't he? Havertz was absolutely broken. I have my doubts about whether he could do it. He'd been broken by Chelsea, and purely that fact is what gives me hope for Sterling. Right, I just went through in the chat is going down the side for me. I can't keep up with it. So. But the main reason I've got hope for Sterling is because I'm thinking he's been dealt with awfully by Chelsea again, treated badly, pushed out. And so now we've got to give Sterling a bit of time, and we've got to get him playing with. I don't want to see Sterling playing with Jesus up front. With the greatest respect to Jesus, I want to see Sterling playing with Havertz up front. I want to see Sterling feeding Havertz and working off Havertz. Then we'll start to see how good a player Raheem Sterling can be. And purely by playing alongside Havertz, Sterling will get better. Because look at what Havertz is doing. Players are playing well alongside Havertz because Havertz is dragging them on. And when you've got Sterling and Saka and Trossard and Odegaard and Martinelli, Sterling will fit in there. Sterling does fit in that loop around Havertz. Havertz has overnight, for me, almost become the key in the side. It's become the big cog, the centre of the wheel, And for me now, going on, I want to see you rotate them players around Havertz, rotate them, but let Havertz go through that middle up front where he is. Let him do what he's doing, and the other players are just going to improve. We'll see a better Sterling playing alongside Havertz than we will alongside Jesus. I'm sure of that.
Alex?
Yeah, it's just amazing how quickly it's turned around for him. I think it's this weekend. It was exactly 1 year ago where he got given the penalty away at Bournemouth and scored his first goal. And yeah, just since that, I think in 2024, the graphic you just brought up, it shows that in all of the games he's played in the league in 2024, he's had 74% of the games played. He's either scored or assisted in the game, and that's the highest percentage out of all the strikers in the top 5 leagues, more than Gyökeres, Kane, Watkins, Haaland, or Seaman. So it just shows the consistency he does it with as well. He might not score 3 or 4 goals in a game like Haaland does every now and then, but I mean, he'll do something for you every game, whether it's a goal assist or the way he presses and wins duels. Like I remember towards the end of the game where he still battled and won the ball. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now like how far can you go with this club? Because this has all happened within 12 months. And now that he's starting to have more confidence in his finishing, I think the finish, like the goal he scored, that's something we saw when he played at Leverkusen. He'd finish in that kind of manner. He never really did it at Chelsea. But like the confidence in his finishing now will just get better and better. And yeah, I mean, a year ago we'd never see him score a goal like that, like just go at goal and have a shot. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how far he can go at this club.
To be honest, Alex, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I didn't see Havertz having that sort of goal in his locker because it was such a flashback to the days in Germany that he hadn't done that in England at all. And if he can add that to his game, that's another level that I didn't even expect out of him on top of what he's producing now. But I do see a difference between him and Sterling in that I don't expect Sterling to be here this time next year. And I think he's a stopgap in terms of a
He's
loan
only
side.
25 as well, Havertz. I think Sterling is nearing 30 if he isn't already 30.
Yeah, I just don't expect Sterling to still be here. I think that loan is a stopgap until we get in the player that we really wanted to get in this.
Absolutely, no, yeah, for sure. Jeff Danes says near Kai at Leverkusen was a standout player. Chelsea ruined him. In fairness, yes, Chelsea did damage him. He came over here when he was 2021 in the January transfer window. Then there was COVID, behind closed doors, lockdown. He's 20 in a new city, foreigner. I don't know. I'm sure his English was fine then, but he's definitely good now. But it must have been very difficult to be in a strange city on your own with no family members around you, and then have 4, 5, 6 different managers, different strikers, different players around you. So it's what I said when we first signed him, that it was a huge gamble by Arteta, and it's clearly paid off. And Arteta has managed him absolutely fantastically, because I am just so glad that he proved the likes of Heath, by his own admission, that it proved him wrong, and many others, including probably some of us to a certain degree who didn't doubt, but I think every one of us, by our own admission, would have to go, "Whew, that's a brave call." Trev?
Ferg, I'll hold my hands up, mate. You know me, I never talk really badly about any player, so I was never going to get on his back. He was always going to get a chance with me. But I had massive doubts about Havertz coming in. I didn't look at the bigger picture. I didn't look at what he'd been through at Chelsea. I didn't consider that. I didn't consider how they'd messed him around. I didn't consider the situation with him having no family here. All I knew was that he hadn't been playing very well for Chelsea, and we'd gone and signed him. And so I had my doubts, much like many other people. But I'm absolutely over the moon to see what he's done.
Footballers are human. Football's human.
Yeah, the work he must have put in to get where he is now.
Did you see
Alex mentioned it earlier. It was a year ago that he got handed that ball and made to take a penalty at Bournemouth.
Was it a pity penalty?
He had to be forced to go and celebrate in front of the fans. He wasn't going to go over there. He had no confidence in anything he did. Not only his football ability, but he felt. You could tell by the way he wouldn't go near the fans. He felt that they would be on his back immediately. He didn't want to be in with them. And the turnaround is just off the scale. And just look at his face. All you got to do now is look at his face when he plays. Dan,
look at when he scored that goal, Dan. He came running to the fans. You could see him running to the fans, twirling, spinning, just enjoyed it. As Trevor rightly said, that game at Bournemouth, you were at it and Trevor was there, and he had to be brought over by Arteta. Come on. And it was the same with Brentford. And
I think that's good team management and integrating a player into a squad. But I also, let's be honest, I think there's an element of luck there as well, right? As you said, there's a gamble in signing Havertz. And I think I understood why they signed him. Definitely a gamble, but for me, they still signed him as a 10. And he's near enough found himself into that number 9 position where he played at Chelsea. And I think it suited him because that's, I think, him finding his position in the right club with the right fan base and also now the right position within the team. He was constantly being moved around in different positions. I think he wasn't quite comfortable playing a game here and then not playing again for Chelsea and then back in again as a number 9. He's been given confidence to play in a position that he's now comfortable. And for me, the higher up the pitch he is, the better. So, and I think that's shown with our transfers as well this summer in bringing in Marino. I think he's been brought in mainly because Havertz has been pushed up to that number 9 position. And then we've let Eddie go. And now Havertz is our number 1 striker. And I think that's not going to change. And I'd be surprised if that changes even next summer unless a big name comes in, because I can't see him being a number 2 striker. I think he's done enough to be our number 1 striker. And I can't see him dropping back into the 10 very often unless we need him to. But he was a 10 at Leverkusen. I think people forget that. And he was a very, very good 10 and very promising 10 at Leverkusen. So people do develop as they progress through the career.
You know what? I think the way that Arteta, and I want to move on through the game in a second, but I think the way that Arteta plays football, and he expects players to play football, that David Raya could play number 10, number 9. Every player in that squad is expected to be able to fill in any position. Calafiori moved over to the right. He's naturally, he's a centre half and naturally more left. There's a couple of more limited players. Zinchenko's a little bit more limited and Kivior a bit more limited. But otherwise, aside from that, I think there's quite a lot of fluidity. The substitutions.
That's the policy, though, don't forget, Fergus. Like when they're identifying transfer targets now, they've got a set criteria. It's, are they young enough to be able to develop? Can they play multiple positions? Can they be flexible in the system that Arteta wants to play? And we've seen that in most of our signings, and even the likes of Calafiori, etc. That he started his career as a centre back, then he got moved to a left back, and then he's now going to be playing. No, sorry, it was the other way around. Wasn't started as a left back, then came into a centre back, and now he's going to be able to be playing both positions. And I think it's just something that we're identifying in our players and saying that's a characteristic that we want.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish on Havertz. I think you've all touched on it, but I don't know if you heard what Arteta said before the game, because he got asked about Havertz, because it was a year ago, and he said Havertz is a player that needs a lot of love. He needs to feel protected. He needs to feel chemistry around him. In football and in life, he gives so much to everybody. He just needs that connection. And I think that's just what we've given him for the past year. The fans and the players and everybody around the club. And I think he's just found that connection, and that's why he's flourishing this much. Just within a year.
Listen, another player that needed that love, needed that that connection with the fans again, was brought on, as Trevor said about 10 minutes ago about substitutions. Jesus and Sterling went off.
No, just give me a break.
No. I'm not. I'm actually. I'm paying you some credit, but you were slightly ahead. That was all. We've gone off onto all different tangents, which has been brilliant. Jesus and Sterling went off from Martinelli and Trossard. Jorginho went off and Moreno came on. 67 minutes in, a brilliant cross from Saka gave Martinelli the opportunity to score the goal. I'm just going to play this goal because my nephew, who was with me, was doing what you expect him to do. He had a great day, but he doesn't get to see many games. But he videoed a couple of the goals, and they're absolutely brilliant. This one in particular is great, and we can't get done for it. So you can feel free to talk through it if you want, Trev. But have a watch.
Now let's watch it.
Trev, that is the view myself and Dan have of football every week. Yours is slightly more elevated and on a different angle, but what a great finish by Martinelli.
Yeah, I'm over the moon for the boy, right? Because a few people have been on his back, but I've said it week after week after week. I just think he's playing all right. His effort levels are right up there. He just needed a goal. He just needed to slip one past the goalkeeper and he'd be off again. And he's shown that. That run and more importantly, the ball to Martinelli there was spectacular. VAR were all over it, trying to find a way for it to be offside, and it wasn't. The ball was timed perfectly. The run was timed perfectly. And the finish, albeit from only 2 foot away, it had to be precise, that finish. He was right on the post. And I'm over the moon for Martinelli because all he needed was a goal, and we've got our old Martinelli back now. I'm certain of that, 100% certain of it. Martinelli's back.
Dan, your thoughts on this? And I've not had a wee all day. I need a wee.
Oh, here we go. It's that time again.
53 minutes he's made, boys.
I've done what? No, I've done a full lap of the M25, down the M3, out the A12. I've done 220 miles, drank lots of water all day, come home, cooked dinner, had a bottle of beer, come up here. I've had this much beer, and all of a sudden I need a piss. So off you go.
If any of you listeners are still awake, Fergus has now gone for a wee and waffled for about an hour before it. What was you saying, Dan, mate?
I was just about to say, everyone that watches regularly knows where he's really gone, so he can try and hide it all he likes, but we know what he's changing right now, so never mind. Look, back to Martinelli, I think he's going to be a massive part of this squad, and I'm so pleased that he's got a little bit of confidence back. He looks like he's a bit sharper, and he's got a couple of goals recently now, so going to be a key part of our team, because sometimes if we play Trossard from the start, I think the reason he does better as an impact player off the bench is he changes the game when he comes off the bench. He changes the strategy and the way we play, and he comes inside more and he creates those sort of 1-2s and movement off the ball. Whereas Martinelli is very, very key at keeping the game wide and stretched. And we have that with Saka on the right. But sometimes when we have Trossard on the left, we become very, very narrow on the left-hand side. So if he can get back to the form he was 2 years ago, where we've got a winger on each side that can attack, score goals, be direct, scare players, you forget Martinelli has ripped up some huge players in the Premier League, and Trent Alexander-Arnold being one of them, hates playing against him. So to get him back on that sort of form would be huge. So hopefully we're starting to see him back to his best.
Dan, just before Alex comes in, right? I just want to expand on it, Alex, because I think I remember you talking about this a couple of weeks ago. Martinelli's back on form, right? I'm taking that as a given, right? But is it more to do with the people playing behind him, Alex?
I mean, it could be. You still need to find his relationship with whoever's playing the left back, because I think he had a good relationship with Zinchenko when he played there, and those two they played well off the left hand side in that season where he scored 15 goals in the league. But yeah, I mean, I can see him and Calafiori, and then maybe Marino when he starts playing. I can see them three.
It was quite evident. I'll let you come back on Alex. It was quite evident when Calafiori had to go and switch to the right hand side last week, and Kivior came on, that Martinelli was more or less out of the game. He didn't have the supply. Carry on.
Yeah, and I just think I mentioned in the first half they tripled up on Saka every single time he got the ball on the right hand side. But if Martinelli gets into the form where he's able to score 15 goals in the season in the league, that just means they can't triple up on Saka when he gets the ball, because he'll be in acres of space on the left-hand side. And yeah, I think that's something that can grow throughout the season, the relationship and our left-hand side in general, because we have really been like predominantly playing through the right-hand side with Odegaard, Saka and Ben White. So I think it's important that we get something going on the left-hand side as well. And I think Martinelli can be key to doing that. Like when he starts playing regularly again, and building the relationship with the left back, probably Calafiori, who's going to be playing there.
Dan, what's your thoughts on Saka registering as 7th assists already this season, and Martinelli getting 2 successive goals in home games?
Well, look, someone had to step up and be creative when Odegaard's out of the team, and I think Saka's been that guy, and I think that's the reason why he was given the captain's armband for a few games, because he is the guy that's going to pick the team up and drag them forward. So it's good to see that spread out. I think a lot of them still have come from corners as well, and Saka's been on a few set pieces, which has aided that. But players need to get into form and get a run going, and when they're in that form, they show their class week in, week out. They're great players, but anyone that's on form, it just gives them that little bit of boost, that confidence boost. And a bit like I was saying about having a star man years ago is the confidence it gives to the squad, knowing that there is someone that whatever happens, whether you go or go down, the confidence in the team that person will drag us forward. And I think Saka's becoming that guy for the team.
Quickly, just like watching the game Spurs against Brighton, that's exactly what they didn't have in the second half, wasn't it? They didn't have anybody to drag them forward. And I think that's one of the massive differences between us and a side like them at the moment. They don't have any leaders in their team, and we are full of it, like especially with Saka and the likes of Rice and at the back.
It was the conversation we had. The conversation we had was it midweek or last Monday about Saka being captain, and I had said, I think it was Monday, and I had said to Dan, I was surprised it was made captain. But then when you heard him on TV and how he held himself is fantastic. And you could say that probably about a half a dozen. I would have said Declan Rice would have been better as the number 2 captain. Odegaard is a quiet man when you speak and see him, but he clearly demonstrates leadership in ways that we won't necessarily see, is probably by demonstrating stuff on the pitch and understanding people. Sorry, subs again, 84 minutes. Partey went off for Tomiyasu. It was really good to see Tomiyasu get a run out, Trevor. And then 87 minutes, Saka sealed the points when Trossard did this. Let's have a quick look. It's not as close up this time. Connor, next time, if you are watching, next time you need to zoom in a bit more just on the final bit. Just carry on watching this for a second, because there was a VAR check.
What was I good?
Sorry, before I go to you, Trevor, on it, Dan, there was a VAR check, and both of us went, nah. It's not going to be a goal. And Connor was still recording, and he got me doing this.
And if we don't celebrate, VAR, fuck VAR!
Cover your ears. Cover your ears. To me, all I can see there is a very, very rude man. So I don't know what else to comment on.
I think you mean drunk.
That sort of reminded me of them Tottenham fans you see that film themselves at every game.
I didn't film myself. I didn't film myself.
Look, right.
Invested in cameramen.
You mentioned one player's name who I had down on my notes. I've not got them now, but you've jogged me to mention briefly tonight, and I don't think we can move on anymore without. You mentioned the substitution for Thomas Partey once again played right back, and just did the job again. I mean, it's not his normal position, but I still say what I've said. If we keep Partey fit all season, we're going to win this league, right? I think he's that important. He just slotted into that right back position and just did he ain't no Ben White or Tommy Asu, but he had his own way of doing things, and he was quietly good, wasn't he? And next week, hopefully, he'll move back into his proper position, and he'll just have that game where we don't see much of him, but you just know he's doing all the graft and all the work. He needs a song, Dan. You need to start sorting that out. Son. Thomas Partey needs a song badly. So that's Thomas Partey. If he stays fit, we go to the last day again. If it don't go to the last day, if Thomas Partey stays fit all season, and
you nearly say what you nearly did.
Thomas Partey.
Listen, if Thomas Partey stays fit all season, if it don't go to the last game, it'll only be because we've already won it. Right? I'm that confident in the influence that man has on this football team. So yeah, who came on for Partey? Who was it?
Complaints coming in from Ofcom about an angry Irishman on their TV.
I'm hoping the celebration police pick up on that as well, by the way.
Oh, maybe not. Listen, it was a 3-1 win. We done the job that we needed to do. The celebrations were great. As I said, it was Dan, it was my nephew Connor, and his mate Ryan. We don't look.
Did you? Have you taken a match ball home there, Fergus?
I know. I'm 9 months pregnant in that one.
But ever body shame me again, Keating. Don't you ever body shame me.
Fergus got the hat
trick. When you are hiding that.
There's room for plenty of calzone in Italy.
It's the angle. It's the angle. When you see one of
the angle.
That was Joe from the King Edward who took that photograph, and she took a video first of all, which was even worse. But when you get a professional, when you get a professional take a photograph, look, it doesn't look as bad. That's Stuart.
It looks worse.
Photographer. No. That look. There's me and Dan celebrating his birthday. I actually went up to Stuart and said, Stuart, it's Dan's birthday. Would you mind taking a photograph of us? And he went, of course I can. And he sent it on to us. And we had one with my nephew and his friend and Gil. So if Stuart unlikely is watching, thank you very much. Really appreciate what you did. Go on, Trev.
No, just the first picture was before the visit to the maternity ward, and after it was born.
Listen. The one guy who did make an appearance was this guy, Aaron Ramsdale. Came back to the Arsenal. A fan's favourite, as we said before, an integral part of the culture change and the connection between the fans and the players on the pitch. The Arsenal fans in the stand went a little bit early, but nonetheless sang Aaron Ramsdale's name and England's number one. The applause he received as he left the pitch, he walked right around the pitch, applauded his home fans, all the home fans and the visiting fans as well. And he was very humbled and emotional at the end of it. Dan, we had the absolute pleasure to bump into his mum and dad afterwards. My nephew took a sneaky photograph. And we spoke with Nick and Caroline afterwards. Talk to us about that and just being able to say, like, we want to say, make sure that we could say thank you to Aaron for what he did and wish him all the best in his future. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, I won't say too many personal things that we said because you should be able to have a personal chat and have it not broadcast everywhere. But totally, in general, the feedback from me to say to Aaron was what I've always wanted to say to ex-players that play for the club is just thank you very much for everything you've done for the club, and it is appreciated by fans, and especially when you've got a player like Ramsdale who generally was a fan's favourite and still is amongst the fan base, and you can see by the reception he got. I did say that I was glad it was at the end and not throughout the whole game because my main focus is and will always be Arsenal. And look, for that game, I didn't want him to do very well, let's be honest. I wanted him to let in as many as he could. But we wish him well. I hope it all goes well for him at Southampton. He deserves it for the way he's interacted with the fan base. I love the way that him and his family are sort of down to earth and mixing with the fan base. It makes you feel appreciated as a fan and not just another person that's putting more money into the club. So yeah, just generally really, really wish him well and hope that Southampton can pick up a little bit and that he stays staying in the Premier League and that one day he's back being England's number one.
Yeah, Trevor, without going into loads of detail about the conversation, but it was really good is speaking with his mum, which is that photograph. I'm just ahead of my nephew there. I'm walking with his mum and she said, we couldn't hear anything. I don't know what the reaction was like. They pumped out ABBA songs all over the away fans with the Saka song, Voulez-vous. And I said, oh, don't worry. We sang England's number one. And she went, oh, my God, he loved that. And she said, I knew he was emotional at the end. But it's nice that we've got class is permanent. We've got that hanging over the block 5, block 6, block 7. It is, isn't it?
You could talk about Aaron Ramsdale all night, couldn't you? But to just make it brief, because I've got the hint, Fergus, by the way. What Aaron Ramsdale did for Arsenal when he first joined the club, and lifted our team and lifted our fans and lifted the whole atmosphere. You can't put too greater emphasis on what he did. He was what we do now, what we see now is was part of Aaron Ramsdale's doing, and it's his legacy he's left us with. He's left the club. Do you know, I hate to see him get relegated again because he's suffered some relegations as Ramsdale, but I think he will get relegated again. But I'm telling you now for nothing, I reckon if he gets relegated, he'll be straight back into a Premier League team. He's that good. He's that good. I think, Ramsdale tossed a coin. Arteta tossed a coin, and it came down in Raya's favour for me. And Raya's proved us all that he's the best keeper we could have. But I'll never forget what Ramsdale did for this club. Never forget what he did for this club. The way he lifted us fans. He lifted us fans so much that a Tottenham fan ran on the field and tried to boot him, didn't he? Eh? That's how much Ramsdale loved the Arsenal. He'd do anything for us, and good luck to the man and his lovely mum and dad as well.
Yeah, Trevor, you put a question out to people who were watching earlier, and we've got more and more people watching us now. What can we win this season, and why? And in what can we win? The Premier League and the Champions League? Can we win one, both? What? We've had a couple of answers. We've had Heath, the Premier League, because due to our defensive qualities. Leanne, ever the optimist. Well done, Leanne. Both. And Dell says the Premier League because we've a number. Dell, why do you know me well enough? Why put so many words?
For that exact reason, Fergus. Would we like to hear you read them, please?
He should know better than doing that, shouldn't he? He should know better than doing that. But it's interesting to talk about our defence in conversations about winning the Premier League. But I honestly think we've got a defence that's set up to win us games in Europe now. I really do. I think the Arsenal history of shooting ourselves on the foot in Europe a lot will be changed massively this season. I think we've got a confident and more important than anything, a very capable defence. I've been thinking all day today about my best back four. And even now, I've not got it straight in my head because there's so different ways you can think about it and make reason for different players playing in our back four, you know. And we've never been in this position for years where we've been fishing around trying to find people to fill in the defence, like we did with Partey at the weekend. But that's a one-off. I just can't. I'm so impressed with what Arteta's done in our back four. I can't see a weakness. And I've come up my back. If everyone was fit now, my back four would be White, Gabriel, Saliba, and Timber. That would be but I don't know why I've come up with that, because if I think about it for too long, I think Calafiori there, yeah, but he can fit in anywhere, so maybe he's a bit of a utility. Then I think, well, Tommy Asher has never let us down, you know, and then we've got Zinchenko, who people are saying is over and done with, but he's always given us 100%. We're on a massively big position, you know, in defensive wise. And there's a bloke called DJ in the chat who's obviously just come in. Unfortunately, I haven't got control at the moment. Otherwise, I'd reply, DJ. But yeah, I don't even know who you are. You're faceless, so it don't matter.
By the looks of it, DJ is somebody who is so Arsenal's got in his head so much. Dark arts again, dark arts again, dark arts again. Olay, olay.
People like us that much that even opposition fans tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. We must be getting good. Listen, Alex, I know you. Hang on, shush, Alex. I know you need to go. So 1 second. Answer Mick the Gooner's question, because I said we wouldn't. I forgot about it. Is Jesus going to be another player that's going to drift out?
I don't know if he's going to drift out. I think we saw with Martinelli, he kind of had an off season last season, and he was able to come back, or starting to come back now. I think Jesus, if fingers crossed he doesn't get any more injuries this season, I can see him being a valuable part or a valuable cog in our system this season. I think he offers something different. He's got that X factor. We saw it against Bayern last season at home, where he set up Trossard, and he's just got that something different to some of the other players. I don't think he's going to be our starting number 9 again. I think that's done and dusted. It's Havertz. He's the best in our squad, but I can still see him playing a part in our season, and still he's a good player to have in the cup games and to bring off the bench, especially when it just gets into rhythm again. And gets up to pace. So I can't see him drifting out completely. I could still seeing him play a part.
Boys, that's nearly everything. I just had one picture I want to show everybody. I've been down the seaside and I've seen some cruelty. Seagulls are getting more and more vicious. You know what? They stand there, they'll take it all, and then they just strike back.
I'd like to thank Tottenham for making my yesterday afternoon a wonderful afternoon. I thoroughly enjoyed my afternoon yesterday. My grandchildren didn't know what I was laughing about. Granddad, what's the matter? Are you okay? Are you okay? And I couldn't get a word out. I was laughing that much. So yeah, thank you very much to Tottenham for making my day yesterday wonderful. Is that question from Danny Ferg? Have we answered that, mate? Just it seems Danny's asked one last question.
What's this? One question I've asked: have we put?
Have we outgrown Zinni and Jesus? Dan,
go.
I was near enough going to mention that, so it's probably pretty good timing. I think I agree. We probably have in terms of our starting 11. I think our 11's moved way beyond those guys now. I think I'd said a few times a year or so ago that Jesus eventually will end up being our backup right winger for Saka, and that we'll have someone better and more clinical and more well-rounded as a central striker. There is always a reason why a club like Man City lets players like those go, and you need them as a stepping stone. And I think we've used them to get to where we are, but I think we've moved very, very much beyond them. And I think Zinchenko will struggle to get back into the squad, let alone the starting 11. I think Jesus will be in and around the squad for a couple more years until, exactly as I think people are saying in the chat, maybe will he get fed up with a lack of game time and then move on somewhere. But to answer that, I think we have moved on from them. And I think we will move on to them quicker when we can get our final targets in. And I think we have 3 or 4 more targets in this squad before we will move them on.
On a final note on that, 2 seasons ago when Zinni and Jesus came in, they were an upgrade on what we had 2 seasons ago. And here we are now thinking there are fringe players. That's how much we have developed as a squad.
I can feel it coming.
I'm going to press the button.
You're going to press that bloody button, aren't you? I know you are. I knew you were.
Can somebody just keep an eye out for any pickpockets in the background? 512 currently watching us on all platforms, a lot on Twitter. We'd love if you went over to social media and other platforms, especially YouTube. Guns and Yellow Ribbons is what we're called on YouTube. Like and subscribe what we do. You know what we are. We're just like 4 blokes. We talk Arsenal.
Geezers. 4 geezers, mate.
Never. Right, on that note, it's been brilliant. I'll let you go. Guys, Alex, Dan, he's got the ump. Trevor, thank you very much. Up the Arsenal. Fuck the Spurs.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.